Time for YouTube. In my last video, and in several past videos, I should say past videos, I've talked about world-class equipment. Okay, so we're going to talk about another subject today, which is world-class equipment. Uh, Remember the last video? That tractor? Well, now it runs, and it runs just like the one I used to have. It runs really awesome, and like that truck. Okay, there's nothing like older equipment. So I want to introduce you to some of my friends, and what do I think is the best torch for welding, cutting, what I call welding, cutting. Okay, these are mainly burning torches. Okay, I do really no welding. You have stuff where you can do a braze and a solder. And one thing I wanted to say when I say world class, what I'm going to show you here is a torch that did a lot of battles. Okay, this thing did more battle than Genghis Khan, George Patton, Custer, and all of them put together. And now I'm going to cover tips too. So, what type of torch is this? Okay, well, this one says Airco, but you have to know torches. Okay, this one says Harris. This is a Harris style torch. So when you're in the pits and you're working in a closed space and you're working on automobiles, your Harris torch is basically your torch to go to. Okay, now this big boy, okay, this is a Victor style torch, which brings me to the tips, because they take different types of tips. Okay, this is a Harris style tip, and not a very good one. That's for light duty. That's why it's still brand new. It's too heavy for light work and too light for heavy work. Okay, now I'm going to introduce you to a Victor style, and this is an unusual one. This is made by National Torch. See that N, and you see the style, and then you see this is a number 5 tip. These are hard to get, very hard to get. And you can go up to number 7, like when they chopped up the World Trade Center and stuff, and you saw some of those big torches really throwing, they're throwing flame and spark. I wouldn't say flame, but sparks, maybe 5, 10 feet, 15 feet in the air. Those, you can go all the way up to like a number 8 tip. They have industrial cutting torches and some exotic jobs. I don't deal with that, because right now all of that's on the inner screen where you get it. You got to get it, or special supply houses. And some of those supply houses with gases and different things, they won't sell to the general public. You have to be a corporate, a company entity. Okay. Orange Cat's here for his interview. Orange Cat, if you want to say hi to everybody, this guy likes to be in just about every video. My new shop cat. My other one's passed away. Okay. Different cutting tips do different jobs. Okay. So if you're cutting frame steel and spring hangers and stuff, a number 4 or a number 5 tip, okay, is good, because I call this torch is affectionately named Thumper or the Bulldozer, because I cut with a number 4 tip and I'll blow through just about anything. And this torch, compared to these newer style that I have, this is what I'm warning you. Even the new tips are not like the old tips. This torch, I can fine tune this thing to blow through 1/4-inch steel. Even I've cut 5/16 plate with this. I've gotten 5/16 plate. When we were hemming, what we called hemming years ago in the stock car, we would basically put a piece like this between the tube steel, so the car would not bend or break. And it was normally the plate was about 1.5 feet wide, almost 10, 12 inches, sometimes bigger. I was a big Troyer chassis fan. I was not a fan of the Tobias. I always say that to people. I had a Troyer chassis, and it was basically indestructible. And the Harris style torch was the best. Okay, if you're cutting chrome moly, say tubing, you can go down to a number 2 or a number 3 tip, because chrome moly is not a thick, tough cutting to cut. And a lot of times it did have to be cut with the torch because it was that twisted. Sawzalls back in the day would bind up, they'd get jammed in there, and you'd end up almost wrecking your sawzall getting it out of there with a torch. Now the newer ones, they have the reciprocal recoil and stuff on them. they're not bad, but there's still places where you can't get a blade in there where you need to make your cut, especially if you're going to weld a new piece of tubing on there. And that's one of the things when you're bouncing off the wall and you're in the points lead or you're in the battle, you don't want to be sitting on the bench. Even a torch with a number 5 tip, if you heat that steel up, maybe you can pull that metal back out. Okay? And then there's propane. Okay? I'm going to mention T-style hoses. Okay? That's a Teflon lined hose. R style is a rubber hose which will tolerate acetylene. But when you go to the exotic gases, say a T25 oxygen, a G, there's even I think G28 and stuff like that. It's argon and helium. There's some exotic gases and they burn a lot hotter. So you need a T-style hose. You're not going to use a regular hose, an R-style hose. And the propane tip is like this. Propane is very hot. It's a very fast-flowing gas. So what is the best torch? The best torch that I prefer is a Harris. Okay, I don't care if they want to sell you a Victor. Most of the new stuff, you're going to have to go to an industrial supply. You want to buy that crap at Harbor Freight, their brand of stuff, and it's just not the same. And you can't fine tune it because that's what this is. This was bought out of necessity, not out of. If I buy something better, I could probably trade this in over at at the one Airco. They have a program where you can exchange torches, and I'll probably get a better one. I won't, get something because I'm not able to tune this like I'm able to tune one of these Harrises. I mean, I can dial these babies in that you turn on your acetylene, fire it up, you turn on your oxygen. This is what makes it the blow through and adjusts your flame, not the oxygen here. This just turns it on, and you turn it up maybe about a full turn, maybe a little better, and then you set your flame with this, okay? And then you also got to regulate how much acetylene, okay? You can't be skimpy on the gas. You got to have a nice, maybe this long, maybe 16 to 20 inches of acetylene, then turn on your oxygen and dial in there, even with a Harris. Now, the Victor style, it'll throw a shorter. For some reason, the Victor style, even when the acetylene's up, it throws a shorter flame, and then you got to make your adjustments. But as I said, the Victors, I've never had a whole lot of luck, unless they were the real expensive Victors. And if I remember that a Victor head, a cutting head like that, was about 280 bucks even back in the day. I'd hate to know what they are today. Now that's why I said at Airco you can trade them in and get with their program and probably get a $300 torch head for, I think they charge $150 for the exchange or whatever at these shops. So I have the floor pan cut. This truck is about ready. I'm going to cut the back spring hanger off and get the front of this frame prepped the way I want it. And we're going to put the new frame on because I've been getting behind with having other things to do, cutting grass, fast storms rolling in, we had some damage last night to places down the road here. We had a mini tornado come through, so things do get me behind. Getting products, I'm still waiting for my torch tips. The one place I deal with here locally, they don't have dick squat. I got to go all the way out past Humboldt to another Airco out there. They have tips that I need, so I'm going to do that with my holiday time. I'm not going to put it on the customer's time because some of that stuff is inventory. It's for me. And that's why I said, when you go and you're cutting 1/4-inch steel and they're trying to sell you a number 2 tip like these bozos did down here, I ask questions. I play stupid when I walk in somewhere because it tells me whether I can trust those guys, whether they know what they're doing. And apparently over here, it's like every other place you're walking into. There's one guy that's the high-paid guy that knows what he's doing. And at that service counter, that's the case. There's one guy there. And I asked him, I said, where's your number 3 and number 4 tips? Well, we don't have any. Well, why not? So that makes me that I got to blow $25, $30 in gas and drive an hour, up and back, and maybe spend 2 hours. I'm going to shop the store. I'm going to check prices. It's one of the things intelligent people do. So cutting metal before you go out and buy something, okay, and you need the bigger tanks. If you're going to buy one of those Mickey Mouse outfits like I started out with here, again, that was bought out of necessity. One of them ones with the small bottles. And that's where this came from. They're not the best, okay? And you need a 1/4-inch style hose, a 1/4-inch diameter hose because there's 3/16 diameter and there's 1/4 inch. 3/16 is good for plumbing and stuff like that, but even back in the day, you had 3/8 and 1/4 inch if you were running a plumbing torch or something. So watch what you're buying. Don't piss your money away. If you're $100, $200 shy of your goal of what you really want, save for it and buy what you really want, because this other stuff, if it's bought out of necessity, I got out of Iraq, I had to fix shit, okay? My other welding outfit that I got back, which is part of what's in this box, my dad had. He never really had a welding outfit, cutting outfit, and at his age, he's done with the rototiller, cutting the blades off and welding new ones on and stuff like that. So I got a lot of my stuff back that he confiscated when I was overseas. I mean, I didn't mind, but then I started needing the stuff, and then I minded it. So I did mind, and I didn't mind at first. But then when you start needing things and missing old things, that's like this. This is a family heirloom. I'm probably just going to put that away for prosperity, because today they just don't make a torch tip. I have some torch tips in this box. They're probably 40 years old. When I first started fooling with this stuff around in 1988, 1989, that's when I bought my stuff, because when we were wrecking the stock car, I was doing street stocks first, and you'd have to put it on a trailer and just take it home, and you couldn't really, I was watching. My intelligence level was why people watch YouTube, why I compliment YouTube, because you can learn from guys, especially the older guys. And that's what I did in the pits. I put my car on a trailer and I hung my head, but I hung around and I was watching how the other guys, what they were using, torches, equipment, angle grinders, what type of sawzall to use. I watched every single thing that those guys did, and that's what made me the driver and the car builder that I was, because I was already an aviation mechanic off an aircraft carrier, but I didn't have all that much money, and I had kids back then. How much money do you want to piss away in a race car before you realize you got to buckle down, pay bills, and pay the mortgage? And then that came around. In the 90s, I got picked up by Childress. I had pretty good sponsorships. But then as the years wore on, then the money, like everybody knows, in the middle of the 90s, the money just started dropping out of there. And then 911 happened, and life was different for everybody, even including me. So that's how it went, is watching other people and like watching YouTube videos, okay? You want to cut spring hangers off and shackles and stuff like that, you need a number 4 or number 5 tip. And when you're working, like I said, with automobiles, and say you want to cut the floorboards out of a vehicle, okay, plasma's nice, but you're not going to cut a painted surface with a plasma. So you put like a number 1 or a number 2 tip and a Harris torch, and you can cut that floor pan out. And that's another thing I'm going to warn you guys about. Working in your garage and cutting underneath the car with carpet and stuff in it. I had a guy, his garage burned down 2 days later after he was burning stuff out from underneath his car. It simmered and it cooked that long. A good way to burn your house down in your garage or your parents' house or your parents' garage and piss everybody off is to use a torch and not be mindful of your surroundings. Rags, old wood in the corner, old tomato plant stakes and stuff that might be in the corner of the garage. You guys, before you go graduate and think you are the big leagues, there's nothing around here that's going to remotely catch fire. I've got 2 big fire extinguishers. I've got 1 chemical fire extinguisher, and I've got my garden hose. And then I got the other hose here. When I'm drinking too much beer, I can use that. Your Harris style torch, okay, I'm going to tell you, that's your ticket, okay? Your Victor style, if you're doing industrial fabrication or something, I guess they're okay. I just never was fond of a Victor torch, all right? And safety, I have gloves, I have glasses, I have face shields, I have all the personal protective gear. As I said, you want to cut on a wet frame, that metal's going to spark and splinter, and you could get a spark in your eye, okay? Sometimes, I'm not a fan of goggles because I wear glasses. And a lot of times I have side shields. I have another pair of glass glasses with side shield. As a matter of fact, I didn't bring them out this morning yet. I had to go get stuff. We got the holiday coming, and I wanted to get some food. I have my one girlfriend's coming, so I want to have some fun this weekend, and that also involves cutting grass. So giving you guys advice, I'm taking the time out of my life to explain some things that you might not necessarily know, especially about gases. Now, when I say cutting with propane, do you need a special regulator for propane? If you go online, you're not going to find a regulator. You can use an acetylene regulator for propane. One thing I do suggest is buy the chart. There's a gas chart, and when you buy your propane, it'll actually give you a reference of where to set that regulator. Okay, because the pressures are different between acetylene. I usually turn my oxygen up. Well, even, or not my oxygen, but my acetylene, even that set at about 10 pounds. Okay, I'm pretty much up there. Okay, I like a lot of thrust, and I want to burn through my metal. Now, if you're cutting lighter steel, you can probably turn your pressures back. But when you're cutting spring hangers, I turn my pressure up even with the propane. All right, so that's one of the things is there's not a whole lot of books on cutting with torches anymore. Everything's kind of online, and it's very time consuming. So a nice video like this, a nice quick, rolling video to tell you, hey, your best bet is to buy a Harris torch. But like I said, I wouldn't buy one with those Mickey Mouse kits because these valve bodies are different. And I can easily take this lighter, smaller gauge valve body, and I can put a larger valve body like I have in this torch. Believe it or not, even though this valve body on this one looks bigger, this one's bigger internally. Okay, these valve bodies, the head, it detaches here. Okay. I bought this, 1988. That was a unique story. The store, they suffered storm damage from heavy snows. The roof collapsed, and we were doing drywall. And that torch is probably from the 70s or the 60s. They had a lot of inventory that was shoved back in corners, and they realized they had to sell it because that's where the roof collapse was. And they had tables out front where you could walk in. This part of the store that survived was actually the showroom, and they had tables full of shit. And they wanted $100 and some odd for this. I talked the guy down to $80, and I never regretted it. So I did construction is what I did when I raced, and then I did building and developing. But practicing cutting, it's an art. And if there's any videos on how to cut steel, I suggest you watch it, because you do need to know how to set your flame, that you got the little fingers flying out the front the right way. When you fire up the torch, you have like little fingers, and you don't want any spitting. You want a nice roar like a jet engine. Then you know you have it set right. And that's one thing I got to say about it, a Harris torch. I really never met a Harris torch I really didn't like until I got this one. But that's just like I said. This valve body, even here, the front of this, you can see this one carries a lot more oxygen. That's your oxygen feed right there. Okay? What is your best torch? In my opinion, that's just my opinion. That's just me. I'll take a Harris torch over a Victor any day. Now, maybe Grandpappy or the guy that's huckstering at the store will tell you something different. I'm a guy that did this for a living, okay? Back when I was on the aircraft carrier, plasma was just coming out, and not everybody had one. Like I said, you're not going to cut rusty steel with it. You're not going to cut real with a eBay store or a box store grade plasma. You're not going to cut through painted metal. You're not going to cut through rusty metal, and you're not going to cut through thick metal. So your torch is still your better bet. That's just my opinion. But old school is better, and I have a lot of old school equipment, vehicles. Everything. Old school is better in my book. This new stuff, it just even out of the box, half of it's suspect. It doesn't pass the sniff test, at least mine. Kind of like the piece of garbage in the White House that's going to try to rig the next election here. And I can't believe that idiot. I can't believe Trump was an idiot that he's going to debate this fool. I would have told Biden to go pound sand. My version of debating Biden would be with a baseball bat. So that's just my political conjecture. And that's, like I said, my opinion on torches. So thanks for watching my videos. Hopefully you learned something that if you want to look for stuff, maybe the eBay store has some of these old the torch heads. You might have to get a rebuild for them. The Harris torch, the older stuff like that from the 60s and the 70s, I beat that torch around. I can't say I totally abused it, But I mean, you'd have to wrap it up real fast, get the shit on your trailer, get the car in your trailer. Then I learned to mount my tanks up on the trailer, and I learned to be able to, I had quick disconnects so that I could disconnect the line and put that in a box. But it had a rough beginning when it was, one time this thing, it's probably the marks that are on it. Where is it? This thing was, it fell off the truck and it was banging on the side of the truck, hitting the street. And I looked in my mirror because I was actually driving the truck, and I realized that it was bouncing off the street and everything, and it still survived. All the torture that thing took, that thing was the best $80 I ever spent when I was in my 20s. All right, thank you for watching my videos, and if there's any questions on burning and cutting like that, if I can answer it, I will. All right, I try to be honest. As I said, my stuff is out of opinion. It's factual. I don't make up any fantasies about it. I don't misrepresent products. One thing, like I said, I will promote is older stuff is a lot better if you can get a hold of it, and if it still works and works. If it works right, take care of the shit, because, like I said, we're into World War III with the meathead in the White House. It's just a matter of days. I heard things are getting hot down there in between China and Taiwan. Okay, just so you guys know, on a more serious note, doing things for yourself can help, especially like welding, burning, and cutting. Okay, thank you.